So this is the Riverview metropolitan area, and it's a city I've been working on since early September 2023, when I was fortunate enough to get early access to Cities 2. In many ways, Riverview has experienced the ups and downs of the game, mostly downs given the troublesome launch, but things are certainly turning around, and within the span of 2 weeks we've gotten the Economy 2.0 and Detailer 1.0 patches respectively, adding an entirely new level of challenges and therefore fun to the simulation aspects, while also providing a host of new assets and possibilities within the vanilla game. Now, Riverview is a complex beast with more than 120,000 citizens, massive industries, and multiple business districts, so I have been waiting for the mod situation to stabilize a bit after these new patches before trying to transition the city into the future. But I think now's the time. Speaking of time, if you do enjoy my content, I would very much appreciate if you take the short time it takes to just like this video, as that really helps out. Thank you. So this is the last save I made here in Riverview before these two comprehensive patches. And taking a quick look at our economy, we are making bank. $1.5 million an hour against a cash reserve of more than $1 billion. So there's obviously no challenge here. And if we take a closer look at the economy tab, we even have the tile upkeep expense factored in. We're just making so much money on taxes that it doesn't matter, and it's office taxes in particular. We have been subsidizing this ever since the start of the city to really spur that office development, and I think visibly it also shows with these massive clusters of office towers at several different locations. But obviously things are going to change quite dramatically as we apply Economy 2.0. So as soon as I hit play, the simulation is going to grind to a complete halt as these massive changes starts taking effect. But I'm gonna have to wait it out. The developers do recommend that we let our city run for at least a couple of months for the effects to really take place. So I am going to get back to you in around late June, maybe here in Riverview. There's one thing I'm going to do first though, and that is moving into city policies and enabling import city services. Because I'm fairly certain that Riverview is quite dependent on our neighboring cities to provide some service coverage, as I have sometimes kind of neglected this. So we're just gonna click this and that kind of halved our profits, but we're still swimming in money, so it's gonna be interesting to see how things look in 2 months, and I'll get back to you. So we are back after a bit more than 2 months actually, as we have just about entered July, and we're seeing a $700,000 an hour deficit, and these 2 months cost us around $30 million, which is a high number, but it's kind of arbitrary considering our cash balance. We've added, what, 15,000 new citizens, 14,000 new citizens to the city, and the current trend is upgoing, so that's very nice, I guess. We have seen an increase in our unemployment though, so I'm pretty interested to see just how our city statistics are looking. So let's just take a look. Money is a rather boring one. We'll just increase the time scale here so we get this point in time between April and May, which is where we kind of applied the patch. Let's move into income. So income has been halved pretty much, so that's a pretty drastic change, I guess. Want to see unemployment as well. Unemployment, it peaked at around 7,000 before the patch, and it has now peaked at around 12,000, so that's definitely been changing as well. If we take a look at our job situation, that has been steadily declining. I can only assume that's because lots of businesses have pretty much gone out of business due to lack of demand, due to some of the new calculations. But I think generally it's been a pretty drastic change for the city. Now, of course, the main caveat here is that I'm still paying a ton of money for the service trade, 20 million a month. So I'm wondering if we'll see a slight profit if I move in and disable that. And we are actually seeing a bit of a profit. It's not much, but I mean, it's pretty good. It should be said though that I'm pretty much, I've bumped budget to 150 for all my services, and that's a necessity to keep people happy if I don't import outside services. And I think something that's very important is to take this amount here with a grain of salt, because my service coverage is pretty poor. If we take education, which is probably the worst place to start, I must have the worst education system in the United States. Never mind. It's pretty bad. Probably not the worst in the States, but it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, and it's something we need to fix, and it's going to be massively expensive to fix on a per hour basis. The same can be said for my postal service. It's terrible, it's under capacity, doesn't work at all. Telecom, if we zoom out, it's actually pretty bad as well. And I also checked fire and rescue, terrible as well. So in short, there are a ton of things to start spending money on. Let's just get started. Education is the obvious place to start, but instead of starting from the ground up with revamping the elementary school system, I think we're actually going to start at the university level, because I'm only supplying 1/10 of the current demand, which is just terrible. So it's easy to assess the current situation. We've got a single university structure, which is this Riverview Metro University School of Medicine here in downtown, and it is connected to the Riverview General Hospital. Now, we're not going to be building the sprawling, massive regular university in this episode, because I think I'm gonna dedicate an entire episode to really get a massive university campus built. But we are going to place the technical university. Now, that's not to say that the technical university by any means is small. I mean, the asset is absolutely huge. But it is just a bit more of an easy, smaller thing to just start with, and then we can expand in that future episode, as I mentioned. So I actually don't have a lot of space for this, at least not without demolishing and incorporating some already developed lands, except for out here down south. But since we don't have any low density demand, I wouldn't be able to add sprawling suburban developments surrounding the technical university, and it would be kind of isolated. So instead, I've located a spot here where the current suburb of Mill Springs is located. And I think this would be a good fit because it's near the Linden Express, which is a major arterial that is served by plenty of buses. There is some office developments here. We've got this completely new redeveloped nice medium and low density area here. So I just think the building would fit in really nice. Of course, given the scale of the building, I'd have to demolish much of Mill Springs, maybe bar this farm or something like that. So I'm just gonna grab the radio mast here because obviously I can't really afford to remove any radio coverage, as we just established that my internet or telecom services are rather poor. So I'm just gonna be moving that, but otherwise we're just gonna pause and get rid of all this stuff here. So now that I've forcibly removed a couple hundred people in Mill Springs, I need a road network that can accommodate not just this massive technical university, but also a few additional buildings I'm going to be adding just to add a more custom look. And I think we're also gonna have a high-tech office park out here because we have insane office demand, we have rising unemployment levels. And I think high-tech office really plays well with a technical university because you can have like cross studies and stuff involving the students. And if you're an employer, you can, kind of start hiring people before they finish their studies. So I think I'm just gonna grab this regular 2-lane road here, and then we're just gonna move it in a straight direction. Just going to, let's see. We'll just move it up here, I think, at a bit of an angle, and then I'm going to align the technical university here. I think that's gonna play in a little nicer with the terrain differences, so let's just see. Yeah, there's a massive elevation change alongside what is now called Oak Street, which is rather annoying. This is the Linden Express, thank you very much. But I guess I'll need to just expand this a little further. If I can, at least I can, so that we can really fit in the university. And then of course I am going to be fitting in all the other stuff afterwards, because this is the biggest building, so I just need to get that in place. So I think placing it like relatively close to Linden Express, but not too close for the elevation changes to really mess up the surface. Something like this is probably a pretty good location. Now we are probably gonna see some traffic chaos here if we don't make this whole thing a little smoother. So I'm gonna grab one of the large roundabouts. with a few decorations. I think this one is a pretty good fit. And then we've got just about enough space to add in a small alley road here to kind of flank the university, but also provide access to the other developments we'll be making out here. So fortunately, this is going to snap right to the university without any elevation issues. And we can just get that placed in like this. Extend it a bit, and we'll add in, let's see, so the easy option would just be to go for a 90-degree angle down here, but I think what I'm going to do instead is actually find some space here, maybe here, then, and just going to add an off angle. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna use the surface painter tool to expand the surfaces here and incorporate this as either a custom parking lot or a bit more park space. And by doing that, we're going to kind of give the technical university a bit of a different footprint. So right now, you know, it's just a big square and it's obviously one single asset that's just meant to look like this. But if we just expand the surfaces a bit, use a few clever tricks to make a park or a parking lot, then it's going to look a little more custom. Now, before I do that, we might as well just apply both upgrades right now. So there's a nice extension wing, which increases capacity by 500. We are definitely gonna need that. And then there's the workshop upgrade, which is going to improve practical learning, which increases the students' chances of graduating, and we're gonna need that as well. Additionally, we are gonna move into our progression tab here. Let's see, moving down to education. And I am probably gonna unlock both the radio telescope and the geological research center. I might not be using both, but I have the points, so I'm just gonna get that over with, and then we're gonna test these assets, unlock a new tab here, research. Okay, so this one is actually a lot smaller than anticipated, so I think we might place that. And this one will definitely be placing this somewhere. Before I place any of that though, I am going to get rid of this lane, and yeah, this is the final nail in the coffin of Mill Springs. An entire neighborhood of decently wealthy, happy citizens now demolished, all in the name of progress. But I mean, I need to do more terraforming to make this seem like a bit more of a natural fit. So yeah, I am definitely not respecting any bits of the topography here, but yeah, I mean, I am going to be revamping these mountains quite substantially, and instead have more space for development here, as well as more like lakes and stuff like that. So this is basically just the starting point of that major revamp, so it's going to be a small change in comparison to that. With that said though, I wanna just make sure this road is moved up further here. But I do think that the alleyway I'm using here is actually just a bit too small for what I'm trying to achieve here. So what I'm gonna try instead is use one of these custom roads from the Mew Road Assets pack. After much popular demand, I'm finally trying to put this to use. And I've got a bit enough idea here. So I'm just gonna be upgrading this to what is seemingly a normal 2-lane road. But in effect, it is a custom road, which means we can apply some custom changes to it with the Mere Extension Road Upgrade module. So the cool thing I want to do here is I want to get rid of the sidewalks. I'll be creating some custom paths instead. So for now, I'm just going to get rid of these sidewalks, at least on one side here, and maybe we'll just keep it on one side. No, we'll actually get rid of it on both sides here. So it's still zonable, but it's quite narrow, just like the alley road, but it does have this yellow line in the middle to make it look just a bit more substantial. So I'm a big fan of this road, also for rural users. And actually, let's just incorporate, or sorry, remove the entire sidewalks, and then we'll use the surface tool to expand on these surfaces here. I'll be adding in a roundabout here, as we'll be using them extensively, as that is all the rage in modern road planning, and this is a very modern area. So I'm just gonna grab a medium roundabout, maybe with a concrete circle to just kind of match the layout we have out here. And then I'm going to use the Anarchy mode of Move It to make the roundabout a little more smooth, at least the entrances and exits. And just one word of caution here, if you're going to be doing this and replicate what I'm doing here, make sure that the terrain is flat, otherwise it is going to cause some clipping issues with the roundabout island here in the middle. But if things are flat, then you can pretty easily achieve this look here, which I think is a little more fitting. I've used a brush to get rid of all the trees so that we've got a bit of a clean slate, but I'm also going to use the Better Bulldozer mod, select the remove sub-elements and get rid of all the small trees that are part of the technical university asset. I'm gonna let some of the bushes stay, but I'd rather just manually place some big trees to kind of detail this up. The node we've got at the roundabout over here is looking a little tight, so I am just gonna see if I can actually upgrade the road and just bring it in one zoning tile here. It's gonna offset it a bit over here, so I'm just gonna bring that up as well. And I think that's pretty good because we are gonna have a bit of a hill here. This created a bit more space so that if we move in with manipulation mode, once again, we should be able to just, let's see if we can bring this in real close, something like this. And then just get rid of the pedestrian paths here. We are pretty good. Okay, so I think for a brief moment we're gonna switch gears from some of the nitty-gritty detail work, and I think I'm gonna hit play and place some of the other buildings I'll be needing in this area here because before I get like a good overview of that, then it doesn't make sense to do too much detailing, especially when it comes to surfaces and parking lots, because I might have to just redo it if it doesn't fit with all the other buildings I like to place. Hitting play should be interesting because this huge building employs 240 employees, and I can only assume that those that are well educated and highly educated demand quite a payroll. So it's going to be interesting to see how expensive this building actually is when we get to it, because currently wages are 0 buccarinos a month. So obviously this total is not really the real picture. And the interesting part is here that when you place it initially, you're told it's 120,000 a month. In reality, that is, I mean, yes, that is strictly the maintenance cost of the university without wages, without any of the upgrades. And I think not including the upgrades, that's probably fine, because the stats we are seeing here, like the student capacity, is also without the upgrades. So I think that's fine. But the wages, I mean, it's a bit of an issue that you really do not know how much you have to pay for a building before you actually place it. And obviously with the economy 2.0, you might be in a situation where you are a little more scared of placing massive service buildings. But let's just hit play and see what the total cost will amount to from our 120k start at least. I think I'm just gonna speed this up. And my employee count changed to 15. What? The employee count scales with the amount of students, maybe? That seems to be the case, which I guess makes a lot of sense. That's a nice feature. But at 40 employees, we're paying almost 100,000 a month. So at 240, this is obviously by far the biggest expense. So yeah, I guess that's, yeah, it would be nice to know that up front before you actually place the building. But it's fantastic to see all the new students flooding in, so that's real nice. I'll do a bit more terraforming so that we can get the other buildings we've discussed before placed down, just to kind of get an idea of how this whole area is going to look. Let's jump into research, and we'll start by grabbing the Geological Research Center, as that is the biggest building to place. And preferably I'll place it out here where I've got just a bit more space, and I of course need to think of some integrated parking to this building. So maybe instead of aligning it directly to this road, we could make an alley to create a bit of a parking space and actually align it to that. So I think I'm just gonna do that. So I'm just grabbing the regular alley here, and I'll just be making like a pretty basic outline so that we can fit in some parking here. Add in a couple of nodes. Whoa, that looks pretty weird. And it didn't add the curve I wanted to, unfortunately. So my idea is to, I can't delete the centerpiece here. Okay. Apparently this is a monumental task for me. There you go. Nice curve. Okay. Oh man. We'll be grabbing this one here, and it seems to be decently aligned, just bringing it slightly back from the road on either side. And I think that is a pretty good addition. 64 employees, so this is definitely also going to be expensive. But we are getting a really nice high-tech education center out here. And we had one more building to place, which was this one here. So I think if I just get the placement right somewhere alongside here, then I can angle in these alley roads real nice and get a bit of extra parking going. And this time around, the curve was actually easy. I'm learning. And why stop with our roundabout fanaticism out here, getting these small ones placed. And I'm using kind of the same concrete centerpiece here throughout this entire development here, just to kind of create like a uniform look, because obviously most of these roads and these buildings were built very much at the same time, or at least with a kind of a joint development plan in mind, I imagine, for a development such as this. And just using a manipulation mode once again would move it to just make these seem a little more curve friendly. And then I've got a bit of a turn here that I would preferably make a little more easy to work with. Obviously, I'll need to bring this road up to this crossing here as well. So I'm just going to add an additional node here so I can just smoothen out the terrain a bit and move it up here. So let's see, this is 658 and 642. So there's going to be a 12% elevation, which might just be a little too excessive for a direct connection. I'm just gonna try it out and then we'll actually see how it looks. Might be okay. So something like that, yeah, around 12%. I think that's fine. I don't want to do something complex just to get this connection in place. We can always change it and get rid of these. All right, of course, this will need a roundabout just as we've got over here, and we are gonna use the very same concrete setup. So we've got a medium one, which is probably gonna be sufficient here. I think a large is going to look out of place, and a small is probably too small. So we'll just let's just try out the small one and see how that looks. I don't think that's actually too bad. So I think we might just go with that just to kind of start off with. So we've got some odd pavement here, as you can probably see. So I am going to be just enabling Anarchy and adding in a thick level of bushes here, just to kind of cover up that imperfection. Oldest trick in the book. Nature saves the day here. And I might as well just take a little tour down here to see if the same thing is needed. There's yeah, not really. I think things are looking fine here. And while we are here staring into the void eyes of this completely overcapacity school, we might as well just add a bit of an upgrade and maybe see if I can splice in some of these new buildings into the actual fabric of it. So if I can just remove this park here just for a second or two, then maybe I'll be able to kind of splice in a more modern building. I know this is the urban high school, but I think it's a pretty good fit for just kind of combining these two here and hopefully not have any issues with connections, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It's pretty normal in Denmark that you will have some kind of public institution where originally a building was built many years ago, but as the municipality or city has grown, there's been a need for expansion, and obviously unless you decisively try to build in the very same old architecture, then you pretty much often go for something much more modern, and that's definitely the case here. Okay, so this one is complaining about lack of utilities, so I guess it won't actually work unless I upgrade it. Now the really cool thing here though is that if I just upgrade to this road that I've been using throughout, but then move in here and remove the sidewalks, then I still have this rural highway look basically, but I do actually have power lines and water connecting underneath it, and I can zone as well. So that should get that fixed up. So I did mention wanting some high-tech office buildings out here. Now we can't decide on them being high-tech, but if we go with high-level office buildings, they're going to look the part. And I mean, Coda Park, that's a pretty compelling argument for this being a high-tech office building that would fit in quite well near such a university. So I think we're going to be placing this one at least. I just need to check if I can get the space for this one. Then maybe that's actually what I want to build, because that also fits the bill. It's a little bigger. So I may just get the placement in here, and then we'll place Coda Park out here, I think. Yoink. And I'm starting to feel that the radio telescope might be slightly out of place and would be more fitting on like a very hilly area as kind of like an isolated building. Oops, I just removed a sub-element. Whoop. So I'm going to remove the asset, but have no fear, we'll grab a little more of these office buildings here. So let's just get exactly what we need. We're gonna go for level 5. We're gonna go low density, and then something that would fit the bill, and this one certainly would. But I think I want a bit of parking here, so I think I'm actually going to angle it over here. Because I want the parking lots, we'll be building the custom parking lots to kind of break up in between the buildings, so that it's not just like we could have one big combined parking lot here and then call it a day, but I'd rather have some slightly awkward spaces to fill. It's going to take more time, but it's going to look better in the end. So now we've got some space here, we've got some space here, and potentially some space here as well. Now, before we add any parking though, I am going to be a good boy and add some public transportation options. And I know this is I assume this is like the front entrance of the universe. Actually, I don't really know, but you can enter from multiple angles. And since we've got some businesses and other workplaces here, I think we should use this space to create like a tiny, like dedicated bus lane or bus terminal for the university. So we'll grab the Mio road assets, and I will grab this upgradable 2-lane one-way road. Let's see how Anarchy is going to work out here. So I want to go relatively close, but I don't mind moving down here. Oh, it's still overlapping, isn't it? It is, but I'll just enable Anarchy then. And we'll drag it to about here, I think. Then I'm going to switch to the one-laner. See if I can get the 180. I'm gonna add a curve is what I meant to do. Get the 180 degrees and merge into the roundabout. Now, obviously this is looking a little funky, but as soon as we remove the sidewalks, we get this compressed look again, which is exactly what we want. And I want to remove the sidewalks on both sides of this one as well. And then I'll be placing some North American bus stop shelters. And actually I can only place them when there are sidewalks, but I'm pretty sure I can remove the sidewalks afterwards. We're gonna check it out at least. I think I'll just be placing 2 at a bit of a distance. I probably only need 1, but it's more so for the aesthetics basically. We'll see if this actually causes any issues when the buses try to get rid of passengers. That's not how you say it, but I hope you guys know what I mean. Anyways, I'm just gonna check if these are actually still functional. Let's see. It seems that they are. Okay, so they still function after I remove the sidewalks, which is absolutely perfect because I would like to integrate the surface type we have at the university here with the actual bus stops. Before I do that though, we are once again gonna grab manipulation mode and see if we can just make the transition here a little smoother, something like that. And then over here, I'm hopeful that we can squeeze in like a dedicated ramp here. So if we grab the 3-lane asymmetrical road, oh, I'm gonna need a new node, obviously. Just getting that placed then, and we'll grab this one here. Disable snapping so that I can just get the placement aligned as best as possible, something like this. Remove that, and ooh, look at that subtle thickness of it. It even has a watermark. We'll smoothen this out ever so slightly. We'll do the same thing over here because this is also looking a little wonky, and we'll drag this one up and here as well, because this is for buses, so we might as well make the job easier for the bus drivers, give them a little more space to work with. Let's see if we can get rid of the traffic light. We can, and I'm just gonna use the traffic mod to ensure that, yeah, things are looking pretty good. All right, so I did some testing and I've re-added the curb here, the pavement, because otherwise people would be, they'd be standing right on the actual road where the bus actually enters. So, but I still think this is a pretty good look. We're gonna grab one more of these roads here because my plan is to have a road that is running parallel here for bus traffic in the opposite direction, because I am going to have to reroute from the stop we have here alongside the Linden Express to use this stop instead, because the next stop is in here at this small commercial center. But I think it's fine. We replace this stop with this stop here because I'm gonna make some easy access if you need to go from these office buildings and then to these stops. But before I do any of that, I'm just gonna get this placed here, and actually I'm gonna make sure there's a bit of a distance here because I'm gonna go in the opposite direction so I can get the 90-degree angle right. Something like this. And then we're just gonna flip it in the opposite direction. We are gonna be removing the curb from that side. Then we're gonna be adding in our 2 stops. 1 and 1. Try to make it somewhat well suited here, and then just bring this a little closer in. Something like that. It's okay with a bit of space in between because I'll make sure the surface kind of sticks through there, and that's gonna be real nice. Then I need some easy access to this one, so I was considering either making this a medium-sized roundabout to give more clearance and then turn this into a 2-laner. But I think something that would look equally or even more interesting is actually to just have a small dedicated segment here and then just remove these from both ends. So something like this, which I think looks fairly interesting, to say the least. And I am going to upgrade this to a medium because I need good accessibility for the buses here as well. And this one might just be, no, I think this is fine. I'm probably just gonna move in with some manipulation mode and get these sorted just a little more. The same deal over here now that it's generally just a bigger roundabout. And we can even draw this out a bit, something like that. Now we are gonna grab traffic, and I'm not gonna allow for these and no U-turns as well, obviously. And if I were to make this look real fancy, I'd kind of do the same setup that we had up there actually. I'm just gonna try and see if things are getting a little too complex or if that would look nice. It's probably not necessary, that's for sure, at least, that we have this additional one. But I am just gonna, can I do without snapping? Oh, I've got like an extra small node here. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna be bothering with that, I think. So let's just get this connected up and remove the U-turn possibilities, and there you have it. Maybe just see if I can stretch this a bit further like that. And a bit more manipulation down here just to make this a little smoother, so that it's a little more symmetrical in either side here, just like that. I am gonna be needing some invisible pedestrian paths to make sure that this can actually connect, and I'm a bit unsure as to just how it's going to work. And the most interesting thing is whether they can actually cross the street here, which is obviously something I hope for. But I don't really know if that is going to be the case when no crossings are specifically made here. But I think one way I can kind of get around this and just see what the citizens are actually going to use when they try to get from the university to this road here is I can try and just make like a sort of like a normal pedestrian path here that is going to add as kind of like a bit of landscaping as well. It's a bit of an idea I have just to kind of get some regular pedestrian paths in here, because I think that might end up being necessary. So I'm just going to just kind of add these in, and then we can add in some different surfaces here and kind of make it a landscaping feature, while it's also an attempt to just see if this is actually necessary for the functionality to be there. So that's gonna be interesting. But I think now that I have routed this up, then before I start detailing and add in the surfaces and stuff like that, I might as well just actually get the RTA7 line changed up so it goes through the university now. Now the RTA7 is actually one of our biggest lines. It goes all the way from the airport out here through lots of cities basically, and terminates up here in Northport. So the buses are quite they're quite busy. I'm just gonna pause. So it's gonna be interesting to see if we are gonna have busy buses that are so full that it's gonna be hard for the students to reliably use them. In that case, we might need like a dedicated, I'm thinking like express line, an additional bus line entirely that is going to take you to and from the university and some of the like major urban centers maybe. It's an idea. We're gonna see how this actually pans out. I'm gonna get rid of the bus stations here, and then we'll see. This is the moment of truth, guys. We've got a bus en route coming in here. Doesn't want to use my slip lane. Oh well, I guess that's okay. Process the lanes here. So is anyone getting off here at the university? Yes. Angelina Farah, but she's she's actually going to okay, yeah. So I'm definitely gonna have to provide that pedestrian access, because I'm thinking it's a bit of an odd walk getting up here, but it's good to see actual usage of the new bus stops. So let's get a few services in place. The cool thing is that we can now align the surfaces, so I can see that these have the pattern in a completely vertical setup, and I know that if I do the same, they'll be aligned the same way. So this is obviously a really cool addition now. So I think we're just gonna start here and pretty much just gonna connect up, just kind of eyeball it for now at least, and get the connection up here so that we can add in these surfaces, make it look well integrated with the surroundings. I would love for some snapping here, so I can snap to this place, so that I can make sure that it's completely symmetrical. But yeah, I don't think that's actually possible yet. We're gonna cover up the entire centerpiece here, so that's why I'm gonna move all the way down here, and then maybe we're actually also gonna cover up this. We did talk about adding a bit of landscaping, and then I think I'll have some well manicured grass in the other spots. So let's just see how we're gonna do this. Maybe we'll incorporate this as well, and then we'll just move all the way down here and complete this segment. Something like that. And then there's a grass surface that's being used here, but it's actually, let's just see which one it is, because it's not the super well manicured one. It's not this checkered one, so it's just a grass 01. Good old, which is fine. We can work with that. And I think maybe we've just dropped off our first student for heading for the university, but we are seeing more and more people move in here, which is really nice. It's obviously a lot easier to just build, using the regular roads and have, have pavement everywhere and have visible crossings and pedestrian paths. But I like to try and just use some of the tools we have available to just make things look and feel a little more custom. Because before we have official asset support and custom assets, obviously we are gonna have to get creative. It makes me so happy to see the bus activity here. Very, very nice. Anyways, it's time to dig a little deeper into the detailing, and while parking lots are a detailing element, they of course also function as, they have a functional purpose to actually serve, which is really quite nice. So I think we're gonna start with this big lot here, creating a custom parking lot, and I am just going to... I'll probably clip in a bit on this building, but we can always adjust the surfaces, remove some of the sub elements if we want to. Anyways, let's grab our invisible road path 2-way 2x perpendicular here. That's quite a mouthful, but that's basically an easy functional parking road we can be using. And I think I am going to start by creating a very long segment stretching down here. And then I'm going to branch off here with a couple of segments here. And I think the cool thing here is going to be disabling snapping, enabling upgrades or updates rather, because then we can easily manipulate this and bring it real close to this road. And likewise with this segment, we can bring that real close, which effectively gives us space for one more parking lot stretch here, I guess. Alternatively, we could reserve this to get some of this surface here from the technical university over here, some of this tiling. So I think I might actually just be doing that, because I think that's gonna look pretty sweet. And maybe we'll even then have a bit of distance here between these two, because then we can use this tile surface in here and really create a cool look. We're gonna switch to this road now because it doesn't create any parking, and I'll be doing an upgrade here because I'll be using this road to actually connect to the road network. I'm gonna disable snapping and we'll have a corner connection here. And I guess 135 by 135 is the right bet here. Then we'll obviously need to connect down here as well. And let's just see, we'll just get the connection going. Is that how it's gonna snap? Okay. I guess that's actually, I'm gonna just do it here, I think. And then I'll need to connect this as well to the road. Probably going to connect it maybe directly. No, actually we're gonna connect it over here. I think that's gonna be a bit of a better fit. And of course the cool thing is that you can see when you actually get the connection right. Because it's going to show that to you. And we'll do the same thing here, disable snapping, so I can just get it exactly how I want it. And that is pretty much it. So they are at a bit of an off angle, but I don't mind. I think it's gonna look fine either way. So we're gonna grab, actually let's just start by placing the tile surface ourselves, because then we don't risk accidentally deleting tiles or surfaces rather from the university, which would be massively annoying. So instead we can just line these two and move across the road here. And that's basically just where I'm going to start. Not quite 90 degrees, but if I complete it, we get it there. But that's pretty much the basics of how I'm going to be creating the parking lots around here. Try to get some cool designs in there. So I'm going to be adding the surfaces now, some detailing, get these tiles in. But I think that's probably more well suited with some sweet music in the background. So I am going to jump into that. Alright, I think that is gonna be it for the detailing session. Riverview is quite a sizable city, so I gotta kind of pull back a bit and not do too much detailing because I have to think about performance moving forward as well. Did add a few stains, some cracks in the pavement and whatnot, because it's not an entirely new area. This was probably built a couple of decades ago, judging by the architecture. So it's a pretty well-established technical university by now. So as a little tour, yeah, I think the parking lot setup is pretty simple, but adding these custom parking lots as opposed to just placing some square ones really just makes these blocks feel a lot more well planned, and it just looks more natural. So I'm happy I spent the extra time doing that. Over here though, things went absolutely crazy with these pathways. We've got an elevated pathway here connecting these suburban areas to the office park and the university, and then we've got a direct at-grade crossing here to connect to the office park here. We probably don't need both, and things are looking a little crazy and a little wild, but I'm kind of imagining that not only does it serve a functional purpose and was of course built when the university was established, it's also kind of an art installation as well, so I don't think it's completely rare to see something like this at, you know, university or science parks. Otherwise, I went with a couple of different types of, tree detailing. So where we've got these well-manicured lawns here that are obviously well kept, we've just got oaks throughout. Otherwise, it's a clear surface that the students can use and, have a picnic here or grab some lunch when it's a nice sunny day. And then for the areas where we don't have this well manicured grass, I went for this really bushy look with lots of spruce trees in between. And I'm especially fond of this area here. I just think it looks really great. If we just ignore this bad boy here, things are looking pretty nice. So yeah, I just used a couple of different styles to just kind of add a bit of variety. Not sure what to place on this lot here. Might just be more suburban development, but no demand. The reason I don't have demand is that I still have houses out there that are ready to be bought and moved into. And we have also seen very sizable population growth just by playing and building this thing. Now, something that is very nice to see is all the activity here at the bus station. So what I want to do as a final thing before we wrap up and just take a quick look at how the city is looking with Economy 2.0 in full swing is I want to add this express busway I talked about. We might add a different setup or expand on this in the future, but the first thing I would just like to do is to try and create a direct connection from the central station here in Riverview and then all the way out to the university and back, because this is the major hub where pretty much all buses, trams and trains kind of converge. So if I can just, let's see what would be the easiest thing. I'd probably want something like this so that we can get onto the highway. I'm gonna grab this stop here, I think. And then without setting any waypoints or anything like that, I'm just gonna try and make a direct connection out here. So we'll just get that in place, and it looks like it's gonna take a funky okay, I'm just gonna complete the line and then we'll see how it actually looks. This should be very, very interesting. I'm gonna complete that and then we'll just get a unique color for it so that it's a little easier to work with. Maybe we already got a red line, so what do we need? We could do it sort of a dark blue. I don't have anything like that yet. And then obviously this is an express line just like the RTA 6E, so we are gonna go for RTA 8E, which is gonna be, let's see, Riverview and Technical University. Probably going to name the university something else at some point, but we'll start here. It's gonna add 3 buses, which I think for starters is probably good, but let's just check this route out that it's created for us. So instead of going, I'm assuming this is the shortest and most efficient route, but is it? Maybe it is. I'm surprised if that is actually the case. That can't be. That cannot possibly be the best route to take. I'm going to try and reroute it a bit. So if I just grab, let's just pause and see if I can get it up here with a waypoint. I can. So that, oh, it wants to do a U-turn here. No. I needed to continue here and actually get onto the highway through this clover leaf. So we're crossing the bridge, we're getting onto the highway. Now it's looking a little more like it. And then I don't understand why you wouldn't get off here. I mean, that would be my, I would think that doing something like this is exactly what we want. So we get off at this interchange here, go through the roundabout, connect right up, and then obviously we go back. But this is why this trip to go back, that seems a little, guys, I may be completely wrong here, and maybe I'm just blind and can't see that the distances are obviously shorter with the route that the game is just planning out, but I think this route here makes a lot more sense. And it's probably a lot easier for the actual bus driver to just take that. So I think this is the route we are gonna try and go for. All right, let's just check our actual depots though, because so 45 out of 45, this one is maxed out, and we'll check our massive bus depot down here in Sterling. 64 out of 65. Okay, so I'm gonna need to expand the depot up here to get this line working. That's pretty wild. But of course, very cool. We can place this wherever we want. Of course, we are going to demolish some things, but hey, it's all in the name of progress. Overlapping. Do I need Anarchy on? Presumably I do. I'm gonna try and place it there and just remove the surrounding buildings and then see if this, I think this connection should work fine, right? It added 10 extra capacity, so hopefully we're gonna see some buses spawn on our new route. Well, it says we've got about 6 active vehicles. I'm just gonna change this to electric bus, and then we're gonna see just how this pans out. I'm just gonna see if I can find, oh, there we have them. But they'll probably need to go back now to change to the electric buses, but I think that's fine. And here's another cool little thing from one of the recent patch notes. I noticed that they had increased the noise pollution caused by the highways, which I think was needed because I never really saw this issue before, but I've now got a handful of houses here alongside Wood Lane that are very much plagued by noise pollution. So in this case, they're still very happy due to a lot of nice factors, but it's a -7 for high noise. That is quite substantial. And here it's the main issue when it's only content. I'm not gonna do anything about this, but I just think it's a cool feature. And I mean, the result in real world is that these houses would just be a little more cheaper on the market. They'd still be unaffordable. You'd not be able to buy them, but they'd still be cheaper, right? Our electric buses are now out on the line, and we are starting to see decent activity, 29% line usage, and I'm hopeful that's going to continue jumping up as the buses sort of settle and people start to discover this easy access to the university. So that's really nice. Anyways, the main issue we wanted to tackle was education, and we've obviously still got a ton of work ahead of us, but you know, the university situation has certainly improved, but we are still going to need another massive university somewhere else. We're gonna need massive colleges, high schools, elementary schools, the whole 9 yards. We need everything basically. But I'm really happy with the progress we've made and getting this in place. I've never really built an university here in Cities 2, so it was about time. Now, before we wrap up and jump over to some cinematics, there's one additional thing I would like to do, because we've got an insane high density residential demand, and I want to see if I can just kind of satisfy that a bit, satisfy some of it at least, by getting a few additional skyscrapers in here to Riverview. So if we open up Find It, and we go to residential buildings, and maybe we just sort for high density, then we've got a lot of options on our hand, and some of them are these signature buildings. So we've got this colossal tower as an example, which I haven't placed anywhere, and it probably has a ton of residential units because it is quite colossal. Yeah, okay, sorry. Maybe placing it here near Riverview Central Gardens would be nice. Maybe on this block here, which is not too dense, and it would mean that people with apartments that span across the building would have amazing views on both directions. So let's just see if I can kind of squeeze this in somewhere. Maybe it should even be on this very corner here, even though it's a very, very sizable building. But I think it would be good for a corner lot, to be honest. So yeah, plop. And let's see how much that provides. 648 households. Oh yeah. And that single building is actually enough to start draining some of my high density residential demand. That is very interesting. I wonder if it's... Nah, it's rising again. It's rising again. Okay, so it would seem that I still have more than triple this demand. So if I were to try and satisfy all of this, I would need to provide around 1,800, maybe 2,000 new households in total. And we're not gonna get that done on this final wrap here, but we might see if we can squeeze in just a bit more. And we've got another fantastic looking signature building here in the shape of Halo Heights, as it's called. And it would effectively be the tallest building in the Riverview skyline. So I would have to place it in a very central location. And let's see, Sunnyside Avenue and Cherry Street. We've got a corner lot here. You know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm certain this is going to look nice. It would remove a couple of mid-rises and a high-density office, which is unfortunate, but this isn't super dense to start with. You know, it's got a lot of open surface area, so I think this is probably the best location. So let's just see if we can get that placed. And oh man, I love that look. Just look how dense this is. Yeah, I am pretty happy with how that's turned out. So interestingly, let's see how that is going to affect our high density demand. 960 households. That's quite a bit. This time around, my oh, there it goes, there it goes. So it's going to be interesting to see if the demand is now actually going to settle at like a lower level than just being constantly maxed out. We are dropping to about half now, but the building is still filling up, so we'll see. And this thick boy has actually managed to eat my entire high density residential demand, but man, does it have a lot of units. Oh, it's yeah, never mind, it's creeping back now. Infinite demand. And now I really have to wrap up. So what's the conclusion then? Well, the transition to economy 2.0 has definitely changed a lot here in Riverview. My zoning is very, very different from before, where I had a ton of low density zoning demand for housing, despite people not really moving in and some of the houses having like a pet living there or something weird. So that definitely seems to be a change for the better. I've gained more than 20,000 people during this episode, and that's before we actually placed these big boy towers here. So that's definitely also a massive change with the patch. And then obviously the really big one is the money situation. Now I'm still swimming in money, and I'm never gonna run out of money here in Riverview unless I just try to arbitrarily remove them. But my hourly profit of 126,000, while that's still quite good, it's less than 1/10 of what it was before. So there's definitely been a major change here, and it's gonna be interesting moving forward, because as you guys could see with my education situation, I have a lot of expenses in the upcoming episodes that I'll need to be adding to this. So it's gonna be a little more exciting. So thank you guys so much for watching and all the support. I'll be shooting those cinematics, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.